outside looking in, Rick James seemed untouchable. The leather suits, the braids, the cocaine-fueled swagger. He wasn't just making music, he was making an entire cultural statement.
And for that girl backstage, make it publicly clear, never mind who you thought I was, I'm Rick James, bitch.
Rick was funk's bad boy, a rock star in every sense of the word. Living as if consequences didn't apply to him. But behind the outrageous persona, behind the hits and the glitter, was a man spiraling out of control, addicted to fame, to drugs, to sex, and to chaos.
Right now, I'm not no punk. You know, number one, I mean, the whole bottom line is I had a blanket of love in prison because I'm real.
This is the story of Rick James, a legend who embodied both the brilliance of black music innovation and the darkest depths of celebrity self-destruction. A man who gave us timeless anthems, but whose demons dragged him into one of the most notorious downfalls in music history. Rick James was born James Ambrose Johnson Jr. in Buffalo, New York in 1948. Raised by a single mother who worked as a dancer, he was surrounded by both hardship and performance from an early age. By the time he was a teenager, Rick was already hustling on the streets, skipping school, and running with gangs. At just 14, he joined the U.S. Navy, but not for discipline or patriotism. Rick only signed up to avoid the draft during the Vietnam War. True to form, he didn't last. He went AWOL, fled to Canada, and reinvented himself as a musician. That decision, breaking the law to chase music, would set the tone for the rest of his life. In Toronto, Rick connected with future stars like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, playing in rock bands before eventually making his way to Motown. But Rick James was no ordinary Motown act. He wasn't polished, he wasn't clean-cut, and he certainly wasn't safe for Middle America. By the late 1970s, he had forged a unique sound, a mix of funk, rock, soul, and fire. And baby, his 1978 album, Come Get It, exploded with hits like You and I and Mary Jane, cementing him as funk's new bad boy. He famously declared, "Motown wanted love songs. I gave them sex, drugs, and funk. They didn't know what hit them." Rick wasn't just about music, he was about lifestyle. His mansion in Buffalo became a non-stop party palace. Drugs flowed like water, women came and went, and Rick was always at the center of it all. By 1981, he dropped his magnum opus, Super Freak. The song was filthy, funky, and irresistible. It made him a superstar, but it also made him a target. Conservative America labeled him vulgar. Parents accused him of corrupting their kids. Preachers called him the devil's mascot. Rick didn't care. In fact, he loved it. If they think I'm the devil, then let me be Lucifer in leather pants. Rick James lived his lyrics. He openly bragged about his addictions: cocaine, sex, alcohol, you name it. By the early 80s, he was spending $7,000 a week on drugs, often boasting in interviews that his house was the Studio 54 of Buffalo. He kept dozens of women around him, often calling them his freak army. Many later accused him of being controlling, manipulative, and violent. Actress Linda Blair, star of The Exorcist, dated Rick as a teenager, sparking outrage. But instead of denying it, Rick leaned into the controversy, smirking in one interview. She was young, yeah, but she was old enough to know what she wanted, and what she wanted was Rick James. That kind of unapologetic arrogance made him both magnetic and terrifying. Rick James never played nice in the industry. His most famous feud was with Prince. The two toured together in the early 80s, and while Prince was quiet and mysterious, Rick was loud, flamboyant, and aggressive. Rick claimed Prince stole everything from his act: his costumes, his funk sound, even his women. He once told Rolling Stone, "Prince, please, he was trying to be me, but he didn't have the balls." Rick also infamously feuded with Motown executives. When they tried to tone him down, he stormed out of a meeting screaming, "You can't tame a wild animal and still expect it to dance." He fought with journalists, too. When one reporter asked about his drug use, Rick blew smoke in his face and sneered, "Cocaine's a hell of a drug, man. It makes me me." That very quote would later become immortalized in Dave Chappelle's legendary sketch. By the late 80s, Rick's empire was collapsing. His drug addiction worsened, his spending spiraled out of control, and his reputation as an abuser grew. Then came the scandal that destroyed him. In 1991, Rick James and his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi were arrested and charged with kidnapping and torturing a woman for several days. A second woman soon came forward with nearly identical accusations. The details were horrifying: accounts of crack binges, violence, and sadistic abuse. Rick denied nothing. In fact, his smugness shocked the public. Asked in court if he was violent toward women, he smirked. They knew what they were getting into. They loved the ride. That arrogance sealed his fate. In 1994, he was sentenced to more than 5 years in prison. He served just over 2. Rick later admitted prison saved his life, saying, "I would have died on the streets, man. Too much drugs, too much anger. Prison slowed me down." After prison, Rick James tried to rebuild his legacy. In 2004, he shocked audiences with a triumphant appearance at the BET Awards, earning a standing ovation. But his true cultural rebirth came through comedy. Dave Chappelle's Show sketch turned Rick into a pop culture meme, immortalizing the line, "I'm Rick James, B-Ba-Ta-Ni-Nan-Tui." Instead of being offended, Rick embraced it. He appeared alongside Chappelle, laughing at himself, reintroducing his wild persona to a new generation. Ironically, comedy gave him back the fame music had taken away, but the years of abuse had taken their toll. On August 6, 2004, Rick James died in his sleep at just 56. The coroner found 9 drugs in his system, including cocaine, meth, Valium, and Xanax, but ruled his death the result of heart failure. His body simply gave out. Rick James's legacy is a paradox. He was a pioneer who fused funk, rock, and soul into something explosive. He mentored artists like Tina Marie, who called him a tortured genius who gave everything to music. He influenced Prince, Michael Jackson, and countless hip-hop producers who still sample his work. But he was also a cautionary tale. His arrogance, his addictions, his violence toward women, these will forever stain his reputation. As music historian Nelson George put it, Rick James lived at the extreme ends of both musical brilliance and personal destruction. His story is Shakespearean. Even in death, Rick James embodies funk, loud, unapologetic, chaotic, and unforgettable. Or as Rick himself once said, "Funk is me. I am funk." And in that, he wasn't lying.